The following film contains a virtual model of the modern White House residence. The model was created in a video game called The Sims 3. Due to the parameters and limitations of the video game, it was not possible to construct this model to exact scale or with any more accuracy than is depicted. While the model is not depicted in exact scale, when compared to the floor plans of the actual White House, you will see that the model's proportions and layout are very close. You will also notice that great attention to detail was paid not only to the floor plans, but also to the furnishings and decor of each and every room. While this model was not constructed to perfect scale, it does depict a fairly accurate representation of modern White House residence and will work perfectly for this demonstration. All the claims made in this video regarding the architectural design, furnishings, and decor of the actual White House are absolutely true and completely verifiable at www.whitehousemuseum.org. And as for the esoteric symbolism of this architecture, you decide.
Yo DC Cribs, what up? I'm Berry, and today, I'm going to show you all about the esoteric architecture of my pad, the White House. Designed by architect James Hoban, construction for the White House began in 1792, and John Adams was the first president to take up residence upon its completion in blah blah blah. That's all stuff you can learn about on the regular tour, but today's tour is special, so let's just skip all the blah blah blah. Now, before we can actually begin this tour, one thing you do need to understand is that this country was founded by the Freemasons, a secret society that traces its origins all the way back to the builders of the great Gothic cathedrals of Europe during the Middle Ages, so they know all the tricks of the trade when it comes to building great structures. Not only do they know all of the trade secrets to building great structures, but they keep these secrets closely safeguarded under a tight lock and key, along with a plethora of other age-old secrets. As if to say, nanny nanny boo boo, I know a secret and I'm not telling you. They leave many clues to some of the greatest mysteries of humanity, hidden amongst the symbolism that encodes their architectural structures. In fact, this whole town was designed and built by Freemasons, and it is heavily encoded with a number of Masonic symbols, including an inverted pentagram, which appears in the streets just north of where we are right now, and the Masonic emblem of the square and compass, which appears just outside of the United States Capitol building. Now, they told me not to tell you this, but I'm a dictator on a power trip, so I do what I want, and I'm going to tell you right now, that the square and compass that appear in the layout of Washington, D.C. are actually the keys to unlocking a secret geometric code that is hidden within the city's design. But don't tell them I told you that, or I'll send some predator drones to your house. You see, The square and compass are the two drafting tools that are required to solve the age-old riddle known as squaring the circle, and squaring the circle is the secret to the renowned perfect proportions of Leonardo da Vinci's famous drawing, The Vitruvian Man, and also to the renowned perfect proportions of the Great Pyramid. But few people know that the square and compass in Washington, D.C. can actually be used to scale both of these examples in perfect proportion with a map of the city, thus revealing the long speculated and highly debated secret geometric code of your nation's capital. Now that's not what we are here to discuss today, but it is important because the White House represents the microcosm to the macrocosm of Washington, D.C. You'll notice from this diagram that the White House quite literally represents the heart of the entire city. We don't have time to go into all the details of this secret code right now, but they are thoroughly outlined in a top-secret film called Secrets of the Vitruvian Code, The Decoding of Washington, D.C. So I'm going to have my people leave a link to that film for you in the description box. In the meantime, I will summarize with a catchy riddle in the guise of poetry that goes a little something like this. A riddle in stone in front of your eyes, hiding the truth, deception and lies. Look at it closer and you will believe. Change your perception of what you perceive. They are fooling the masses about the design of a powerful city with powers divine, ever so sacred its geometry, loaded with symbols from mythology. The square and the compass, the keys to it all. Unlock their true secrets and shrouds will soon fall. Squaring the circle, it's hard to digest. Just look at the master Da Vinci knew best. Vitruvian Man, proportions derived, encoded in concrete, his secrets disguised. Great is the structure, the heart of the land. More ancient than Egypt, it rests on its sand. These are the templates for which you will need to master this knowledge. A code you will read. To the wounds of Christ the pyramid points. On Vitruvian Man, the one who anoints. Sexual union can also be found. A Vesica Pisces on monumental ground. The bloodline of Christ encrypted in stone. For 200 years, so let it be known. Now, if I am going to show you the esoteric architecture of the White House, the first principle of architecture that you need to understand is also probably one of the most basic, and that is simply that every architectural structure has a front side and a back side. The front side of a house is usually, but not always, distinguishable because this is typically the side of the structure that faces the street, as is the case here, with the White House facing Pennsylvania Avenue. This is also typically, but not always, the side of the building that houses the front door, or the main entrance into the structure, as again, is the case here, with the front doors of the White House looking directly up 16th Street, where exactly 13 blocks north, we will find the location of the House of the Temple, which is the national headquarters of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, Southern jurisdiction. Because of these architectural principles, the front side of a house is considered the public side, while the back side of a house is considered its private side. After all, if you wanted to have a yard sale, you wouldn't hold it in your backyard. No, of course not. You would hold it in the front yard where the public could see it, and likewise, you wouldn't hold a barbecue with your close friends in the front yard. You would hold it in the backyard, where it's more private. Architects take this into consideration when designing the interior of a house, and typically, the more private areas of a house are generally located towards the rear of a structure, rather than placing them near the front. Of course, being a public icon as it is, the White House is kind of an exception to this privacy rule. However, the structure's design is not an exception to this architectural principle, and as you will soon see, there is a very deliberate, strategic, and even a symbolic logic to the building's design and the layout of virtually each and every room, and even the different levels on which the rooms are placed upon. Follow me, I want to show you something. This is the view from the ground at approximately eye level, from the front, or public side of the White House. Notice that from this vantage point, only 2 levels of the White House are visible. This is an architectural illusion designed to conceal flaws, and there is a lot more symbolism going on with this than most people realize. From the rear, or private side of the White House, we can clearly see 3 levels of the building are visible from the ground. Now listen carefully to the symbolism of what I am saying. It is only by gaining a position of elevation that we can see that there are actually 4 levels to the White House. Clearly, already, there is a whole lot more going on here than meets the eye. More than half of the White House is visibly concealed from the general public's vantage point. Guests and visitors can get a slightly better vantage point, but it's only by gaining a vantage point from an elevated position that one can see the bigger picture. And even from that vantage point, there are still levels below this structure that are not visible. I'll get into this symbolism more in a little bit, but first I want to take you on a walkthrough of the house, just so you can get a better idea of the layout. The only problem is, they won't let just anybody in here, but fortunately for you, it's not that hard to sneak in. Right now, the Secret Service is currently split up into two groups. One is over in the West Wing, getting plastered in the Situation Room, and the other group is over in the East Wing, entertaining some strippers in the family movie theater. So we are going to have to avoid the two wings on this tour, but it's the perfect opportunity to sneak in. Besides, the residence is where it's all at anyway. So I'm just going to walk away, and as soon as I'm gone, jump the fence and meet me over in the visitors' foyer. So here we are on the ground floor inside of the visitors' foyer. Typically, most legitimate guests and visitors to the White House would enter the residence through the East Wing. This room provides the gateway between the East Wing and the residence, with access to both the Eastern Courtyard and the Jacqueline Kennedy Garden. The center hall spans the entire width of the residence between the visitors' foyer and the palm room, with a number of doorways on either side. The first doors on either side of the center hall lead down into the two basement levels, but I assure you that there's really nothing terribly interesting down there. In fact, like any basement, it's mostly just for storage and utilities. So let's just take the second door on the right, and I'll show you the library. This is the White House Library. It's probably a little smaller than you might expect. Nonetheless, here you will find all of the truly great works of literature, from classics like Moby Dick to the latest issue of Big Uns magazine. And off from the library, we have access to the men's restroom, so I always have great reading material when sitting on the throne. This is the Vermeer Room. It serves as a ladies' sitting room, and as you will clearly see, the White House doesn't have nearly enough sitting rooms. In contrast to the library, the Vermeer Room offers access to the women's restroom. This is the China Room. Now, the real White House China Room contains walls that feature built-in China cabinets, but that wasn't really possible in The Sims 3, so use your imagination a little. Okay, this is where we keep our commemorative plate sets from various state dinners and such. This is the diplomatic reception room, or basically, the back door of the White House. Of course, the real diplomatic reception room is actually shaped like an oval, but again, because of the parameters of the Sims 3 game, curved walls are not possible in this virtual world. Besides, is it really that hard to use your imagination a little bit in your own virtual world? No. Good, because these walls have a wallpaper that features a scenic landscape that completely surrounds the entire room. Going through the vestibule leads us out to the south lawn. This is the map room. It's a room where maps are kept. They are kept in a cabinet, but in a pinch, this room can easily double as a sitting room, because we have a shortage of those around here. Who says doctors don't make house calls anymore? Well, they do if you're the president anyway. This is where I keep my doctor. He has his own reception area, supply rooms, exam room, and of course, his own personal office. The White House residence has a staff of nearly 100 people. With such a large staff, housekeeping has their own office and reception area, in order to manage the hundreds of housekeeping tasks that must be performed on a daily basis. Opposite the visitors' foyer, we have the palm room, which connects the residence to the west wing. This room has an enclosed porch type of quality and provides plenty of sunlight, making it a great room for growing plants. The goddess Liberty is featured in two portraits on the east and west walls. The south wall features access to the rose garden, where I sometimes hold press conferences, and the north wall features access to the west courtyard. Next on the tour we have the butler's pantry. There are actually two butler's pantries in the White House. This one, and one on the floor just above us. It all serves to provide the serving staff with access between the ground floor kitchen and the adjacent dining rooms on the floor above us, via a service elevator and stairs, as well as to provide access to the dishwashing area in the basement directly below us. This is the White House kitchen, where some of the finest state dinners in the world are prepared by some of the world's greatest chefs. Believe it or not, every month, I actually get a bill from this kitchen for all of the food that my family eats, excluding state dinners of course. You're not invited to those, but you get to pick up the check for them. Allah bless America. Just off from the kitchen is the refrigerator room. Next to the kitchen is the main staircase and elevator shaft, which are the only ones to extend to all levels of the White House. The main staircase is not to be confused with the grand staircase, which we will see later on the tour. The current elevator was installed in 1951, but the original elevator dates back to 1880. Next to the Secret Service room is the North Hall, which connects the center hall to the basement hall. Very often this space is used to store some of the chairs and rugs that are used during many of the social events held at the White House. The basement hall runs underneath the north portico and provides access to the east and west courtyards, the carpenter's area, chocolate shop, bowling alley, and frozen food storage, which is all a bunch of stuff we don't have time to see. Although they are located at the front side of the building, the two sunken courtyards provide plenty of privacy from Pennsylvania Avenue, thus creating one of the two architectural illusions utilized in concealing the different levels of the White House. Here we have the curator's office. You see, the White House isn't just a home, it's also a museum. The curator is in charge of preserving the White House and its historical furnishings, very much like the curator of any other museum is in charge of preserving its contents. The curator's office has access to the service elevator, which only goes down into the basement. So now it's time to go upstairs and check out the first floor. The entrance hall serves as the ceremonial foyer for the building's main entrance, separated from the cross hall by a colonnade. This is the north portico, or front porch, where we receive only our most honored and esteemed guests. Just off the entrance hall, we find the chief usher's office. The chief usher has his own staff of 7 and is in charge of overseeing all of the day-to-day activities within the White House. So naturally, this office is also located adjacent to the main stairs and elevator. This is the family dining room. There are actually 3 dining rooms in the White House, but this one is reserved for times when I feel like having only a couple of guests over for dinner. Next, we have the second level of the butler's pantry, where servers bring the food up from the kitchen. This room connects to both the family dining room and the state dining room. The state dining room is reserved for larger state dinners and banquets and features a large fireplace. This is the red room, obviously named so for its red furnishings and decor. It is one of only 3 sitting rooms on the first floor. This is the blue room, obviously named so for its blue furnishings and decor. Of course, like the diplomatic reception room, the real blue room is actually shaped like an oval, but you get the idea. This is the south portico, or back porch. This is the green room, obviously named so for its green furnishings and decor, and because not only are there not enough sitting rooms in the White House, but also because there should be a sitting room for each color. This is the East Room, which serves as the grand ballroom of the White House. This is where I throw expensive parties on your dime. This is the ceremonial grand staircase, just off from the entrance hall. Let's go upstairs and check out the second floor. This wide second floor hallway doubles as a sitting room, because, well, when you're walking from one sitting room to another, you might just get tired and need to sit down for a minute. Just off of this hallway we have a smaller hallway leading to the hall closet and the east and west bedrooms. The east bedroom is one of two small suites with their own bathrooms and fireplaces. The west bedroom is the other of the two small suites with their own bathrooms and fireplaces. This room also offers access to the cosmetics room. This is the cosmetics room, so the First Lady doesn't have to clutter up one of my two personal bathrooms with all of her makeup and whatnot. This is the private dining room, for when it's just me and the family for dinner. Here we have the first family's very own private kitchen, as if we would ever cook for ourselves. This is the west sitting hall, because if you don't have enough sitting rooms in your house, you make them out of hallways. This is the master bedroom. This is where all the magic happens with me and Michael. I mean Michelle. How cool is this wallpaper? Just off of this room is my dressing room, and one of my two personal bathrooms. This is my own personal sitting room, located right next to the master bedroom, because if colors can have their own sitting rooms, I should get one too. Do colors really think that they are more important than the president? Just off from this room is my other personal bathroom. Speaking of colored sitting rooms, next to my sitting room is the yellow room, because you shouldn't limit your colored sitting rooms to just one floor. The yellow room features access to the Truman balcony. This is the Truman balcony, located just above the south portico, overlooking the south lawn. Next to the yellow room, we have the treaty room, which is my private study, as opposed to the Oval Office in the West Wing, which is my main office. Now we're in the Lincoln bedroom. This wasn't actually Lincoln's bedroom, but it was his office, and it's known for alleged ghost sightings, so naturally, it's also the guest room used by us presidents to reward our friends and political supporters. This suite has its own bathroom and sitting room, because guests and ghosts should get their own sitting rooms as well. This is the East Sitting Hall, where even more sitting can be done, because if there is one thing we do here in Washington, it's sit. This is the Queen's bedroom, named so for the many royal guests who have stayed here. Like the Lincoln bedroom, the Queen's bedroom features its very own bathroom, and believe it or not, it even has its very own sitting room. I know, it's kind of hard to imagine, right? Now let's head upstairs to the third floor. So here we are on the third floor, in yet another wide hallway that doubles as yet another sitting room, and while I may not be out of sitting rooms yet, I am out of sitting room jokes, so you'll just have to make do. The third floor houses a number of bedrooms. Counting the 5 bedrooms downstairs, would you care to take a guess at just how many bedrooms the White House contains in total? That's right, there are exactly 13 bedrooms in the White House, but I assure you, this is merely a coincidence and nothing more. Yeah, just a coincidence. Aha. This is the linen room. It's just a room for storing clean linens. This is the Cedar Room. If you have ever seen Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn in the movie Overboard, perhaps you recall the part where she tells him that every moron knows that all closets are made of cedar. This is because cedar serves as a natural repellent to moths and other insects, so stored garments will be safe from those pesky little buggers. This is the exercise room, where I rock out to some sweat into the oldies. This is the music room, with acoustics so fine you can still hear the echoes of Slick Willie's saxophone. Sitting room jokes are like jello, there's always room for more. Elevated slightly higher than the rest of the third floor, we have the solarium, with access out onto the promenade, which is also slightly elevated and surrounds most of the third floor. Here's my game room, which actually features a pool table, but somehow, those geniuses at EA Games forgot to include a pool table in The Sims 3, so foosball is what you get. The third floor also features a number of private offices for me and the first family, but who wants to spend time in an office when you have all these sitting rooms? This is the greenhouse, where some of its contents may or may not be legal, but who's going to sign a search warrant on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue? This is the promenade, which stretches almost completely around the entire building. It is here that the second of the two architectural illusions is created, with the promenade's walls concealing the third floor from public view at the ground level on all sides of the building. And if the view from up here isn't good enough for you, we can always go up to the catwalk. This is where the walking part of the tour ends, but you just saw a whole bunch of symbolism and you're not even aware of it. So let's go back to the symbolism of the White House, starting with the color-coded rooms. Notice that I said color-coded. That's because these colored rooms actually contain a secret code. There's a reason that you are not able to see the symbolism of this architecture, and it all has to do with two pairs of opposing colors. Red opposing green and yellow opposing blue. It's known as opponent process theory. It's a real science and you should look it up. But for right now, please allow me to summarize like this. Try to imagine reddish green, not the dull brown you get when you mix the two pigments together, but rather, a color that is somewhat like red, and somewhat like green. Or, instead, try to imagine a yellowish blue, not green, but a hue similar to both yellow and blue. Is your mind drawing a blank? That's because, even though those colors exist, you've probably never seen them. Red, green and yellow blue are the so-called forbidden colors, composed of pairs of hues whose light frequencies automatically cancel each other out in the human eye. They are supposed to be impossible to see simultaneously. The limitation results from the way we perceive color in the first place. Cells in the retina called opponent neurons fire when stimulated by incoming red light, and this flurry of activity tells the brain we're looking at something red. Those same opponent neurons are inhibited by green light, and the absence of activity tells the brain we're seeing green. Similarly, yellow light excites another set of opponent neurons, but blue light damps them. While most colors induce a mixture of effects in both sets of neurons, which our brains can decode to identify the component parts, red light exactly cancels the effect of green light, and yellow exactly cancels blue, so we can never perceive those colors coming from the same place. For a demonstration of opponent process theory at work, simply focus your eyes on only the white dot at the center of this image for a moment. Here in the White House, we can see how the red room opposes the green room on the first floor, and the blue oval room opposes the yellow oval room between the two publicly visible floors. These colors are crossed to blind you from what is really going on with the symbolism of the White House, and it is quite literally a spell to keep you from understanding what is really going on with your government. If you don't believe that the government would use spells to control your mind, I would advise you to research Admiralty law, which will show you how the English language is the universal language of law because the language itself contains a secret spell that is hidden within its phonetic origins. The Bible even speaks of how our languages became corrupted with the story of the Tower of Babel. In fact, that's why when we use the English language in text, we are spelling, or writing, because we are literally casting spells, or casting rites. All that we really need to do is break down the word government and trace it back to its original phonetic roots. Starting with the last part of the word, ment comes from the word mentalis, or mentality, meaning the mind. Therefore, when you make a statement, you are stating what is in your mentality, or speaking what's on your mind. Now on to the word govern, which means to control, or to regulate. Therefore, the word government quite literally means to regulate the mentality, or to control the mind. The color-coded rooms in the White House are crossed to symbolically cancel one another out as the forbidden colors, thus rendering these rooms symbolically invisible, and allowing the events that are conspired within their walls to go unnoticed by the public, like say the secret design of the city, for example. That's why it's important not to go around sharing this information with all of your friends or plastering it all over the internet. You see, all of this has nothing to do with the interest of national security, and everything to do with keeping the public ignorant, so they are more easily controlled. Think of it like this. Suppose you go to a magic show and the magician saws his assistant in half. Did he really saw her in half? No, of course he didn't. He just created an illusion. Nonetheless, he captivated you with that illusion, and you marveled at it. On the other hand, when you actually learn the secrets of how the illusion is created, it loses its appeal, and the magician loses his ability to fool you with his illusion. That's why knowledge is power, and that's why it is important to keep this just between you and me. Now that you understand this, let's go back out front to the public view of the White House and take another look at what's really going on here. Counting the windows on the first floor from left to right, the first 3 windows are the East Room, so the public can see if I'm holding a state function, like a ball or fundraiser. The next window is the Grand Staircase, so the public can see the first family going about their business within our home. Next to that, we have a window, the front door, and another window, all to the entrance hall, so that the public can see me coming and going to and from my appointments, as well as the arrival of all of my esteemed guests. Next we have the window to the usher's office, so that the public can see all the constant activity that is going on at the White House. Next to that, we have 2 windows to the family dining room, so the public can see if I'm having any guests for dinner. And last we have a window to the butler's pantry, so the public can see that I am being properly tended to by my servants. Now on to the second floor, from left to right. The first 3 windows are to the Queen's room, and its respective sitting room, so the public can see if I'm having any important guests crashing out for the night, like the Queen of England. Next is the window for the Grand Staircase, which is there for the same reason it is below. The next 3 windows are the East Bedroom, Hall Closet, and West Bedroom, so that the public can watch my children grow up, and to see if I may have any skeletons lurking in my closet. Next, we have the window to the cosmetics room, so that you can be mesmerized by the sensible fashion statements of the First Lady, and because it's important for a president and his family to look good on television. Next, we have 2 windows to the private dining room and a window to the private kitchen, so the public can see if my family and I are dining alone this evening. The point is, your president is a nice normal guy, with a nice normal family, and a nice normal life. You can see me coming and going to my appointments, you can see my guests, my kids playing on the stairs, and even my wife putting on her makeup. And other than that, there's really nothing more to see here. All the while, from the public vantage point, you cannot see my private quarters, nor can you see me passing the White House press offices on my way to the Oval Office. And most importantly, you cannot see the color-coded rooms which oppose one another in order to blind you from what is really going on within this house. The public sees exactly what the public is supposed to see, and only what the public is supposed to see. The public is given this forced perspective on its view of what is really happening in the White House. Meanwhile, there are inner workings going on, even at the ground level, that the public are completely unaware of. Just think about how many times you have seen images of the White House on the news, on television shows, in films, and even on US currency. It is probably the most recognizable building in the world, yet most Americans have no idea what the exteriors of the East or West Wings actually look like. That's the thing about a puppet show, its illusion can only be perceived from a forced perspective, and viewing that same puppet show from behind the scenes offers a very different perspective. Now that you know all of this, let's just go back and take another look at exactly what is really going on at the ground level. Not counting the restrooms, you will find that we have 13 rooms or sections, with each room or section having its own hidden symbolic meaning. Now, when I say sections, I mean that I am counting all of the individual rooms of the doctor's office as one section. What is really going on in these ground floor rooms is not able to be seen from the public vantage point, but it can be seen by invited guests and insiders. Each section on the ground floor represents a subject to be controlled under the House of the Presidency, which is really just a puppet show for the public. To find the puppet masters that pull the strings, one needs only to look up, say about 13 blocks up. The visitors' foyer serves as the gateway into the residence for tens of thousands of visitors each and every month. Therefore, this room symbolizes public relations. The library is where knowledge is stored in the form of various books. Therefore, this room symbolizes knowledge and education. If you are like most Americans, you probably have no idea what vermeil is, and you probably didn't even think twice when you heard the name of this room. Vermeil is a combination of sterling silver, gold, and other precious metals, commonly used as a component in jewelry. Once you know this room becomes an obvious reference to the economy. As the Chinese culture dates all the way back to the ancient times, and the finest of the porcelain plateware that bears its name typically comes from the culture's past days of antiquity, the China Room itself symbolizes antiquity. Being the back door of the White House, the diplomatic reception room is the preferred entrance to foreign diplomats, and as such, this room symbolizes foreign relations, hence the wallpaper, which is symbolic of the surrounding lands of foreign nations. While the map room serves little purpose in the modern White House, this room remains as a symbol of exploration, not just the exploration of geography, oceans, and space, but exploration on all fronts of knowledge and academia. The doctor's office is an obvious reference to healthcare. Just as a housekeeper is in charge of the sanitation and upkeep of a house's infrastructure, the housekeeper's office symbolizes the upkeep of the nation's infrastructure. To decode the symbolism of the Palm Room, we need to think in terms of Palm Sunday, the feast that commemorates Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. As Jesus entered the city through a gateway, this room serves as the gateway between the residence and West Wing. Kind of makes you wonder why this room would feature 2 portraits of the goddess Liberty then, doesn't it? The kitchen symbolizes the regulation of the food and agriculture industries. The stairwell, elevators, and hallways are symbolic of transportation. I would tell you about the symbolism of the Secret Service room, but it's a secret. Just as the curator is in charge of preserving the White House and its furnishings, the curator's office symbolizes the preservation of government. The East Wing represents the feminine aspects of the alchemical wedding of the allegorical male and female figures that appear so prominently throughout Washington, D.C., as this wing houses the offices of the First Lady. In addition, the East Wing houses the family movie theater, representing the arts and creativity, which are considered female characteristics in the esoteric realms. In contrast, the West Wing houses the offices of the president and his staff, and many of these rooms represent masculine aspects such as strategy and warfare. Of course, the residence itself represents the joining of the two through their offspring. This symbolism is also reflected with the Queen's bedroom and the Lincoln bedroom. Here we see a very masculine bedroom mirrored by a very feminine bedroom, and the master bedroom representing the offspring. This is symbolism that repeats itself over and over in Washington, D.C., and it's all in that top secret film in the description box, so make sure you check it out. But it is only from an elevated position of the highest level that one gains access to the laundered goods and can see the games being played, and the exercises and private businesses being conducted like harmonious music. It is here where a hidden closet is designed to keep moths out and preserve any hidden skeletons intact, and it is at its most highest level that we find the most important symbolic room in the White House, the solarium, meaning sun room, symbolizing. Care to take a guess? That's right, sun worship, or the Egyptian sun god Ra, or Horus. This all ties together with the macrocosm of Washington, D.C., and the Vitruvian Code. Speaking of the Vitruvian Code and the microcosm and the macrocosm, this is where it gets really interesting. There is a reason that, for an incredibly simplistic and even boxy design, the White House still carries with it a certain majestic beauty that seems to resonate with some people. The reason for that is simply because, like the proportions of the city of Washington, D.C. itself, the White House was designed according to the proportions of the human body, as defined by the 1st century Roman architect, Vitruvius, whose principles were made iconic by Leonardo da Vinci with his famous drawing, The Vitruvian Man. When we invert an image of the plans for the ground floor or the second floor, if you look closely, you can begin to make out the faint outline of the Vitruvian Man within the proportions of the White House. Here we have the oval room representing the happy medium between his head and shoulders, and the adjacent walls depicting the lines in his elbows and wrists. We can make out his outstretched arms in both positions. The White House quite literally represents the microcosm to the city's macrocosm, but it doesn't end there. You see, the Vitruvian Code is quite literally the very real Da Vinci Code, the very real lost symbol, and when we overlay a diagram of the Vitruvian Code over the floor plans of the White House, we find some even more remarkable synchronicities, further validating the authenticity of this secret code. Or, to put it into the terms of the great ancient philosopher Hermes Trismegistus, as above, so below. Now I'm afraid that's all we have time for. You see, I have several wars to start today, and a historical document to shit on. I'm completely swamped here, so it's time for you to get on out of here so I can get some work done. Thanks for stopping by. Don't let the Secret Service hit you in the ass on your way out. Have a nice day, and don't forget to subscribe, because there are more elements to the Vitruvian Code that have yet to be revealed.
dad's gonna be pissed. And what the fuck was that crap anyway? Fuck, even I could have done a better Obama impression than the fucked up crap. Damn it, damn it, damn it. This is fucking bullcrap. That's what it is. It's fucking bullcrap. Damn it.
Hey, don't blame me. It's not my fault iSpeech made a defective Obama text-to-speech app for the iPhone.
Yep, they do make a lot of crap. Say, I thought you said you weren't going to use an electronic voice in any more movies. What the fuck?
Well, I figured fuck it. It's way easier this way, and I already spend too much time producing this stuff as it is. Besides, I figure all the people who whine about electronic voices can just go and get their information from the History Channel.
Huh, funny. You know you'll release something else. You know that.
Yes, quite so. Quite so indeed.
That didn't sound like I was reading from scripted.
No, not at all. It was very natural.
I thought so too.
You should have been an actor.
Well, I kinda was one. Oh, my dad's gonna be so pissed.